Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We from Plum Village are very happy to be visiting your beautiful green city and to spend this afternoon together. We shall begin with chanting. The monastics are going to chant the name of Avalokitesvara, the Bodhisattva of deep listening, Kuan Yin. This is not exactly a prayer, it is a practice of meditation. Avalokitesvara is a person who has the capacity to listen to his own suffering inside. And because of that practice, he could understand the nature, the roots of the suffering inside of him. And from that understanding, compassion arises. And he got the healing and transformation. After that, he was able to look at the people around him and recognize the suffering in everyone. And he was able to understand very quickly the suffering inside of each person. And he practiced listening to the suffering of these people and help them suffer less and transform. So the monastics are going to chant the name of Avalokitesvara, and while chanting, they try to touch the suffering inside of them, because inside of every one of us there is suffering, and that suffering inside of us reflects the suffering of the world also. Many of us do not want to go home to ourselves and get in touch with the suffering inside. We are afraid of being overwhelmed by the pain, the sorrow, the despair, the anger inside. Instead, we try to run away from the suffering by the way of consuming. We consume television, magazines, music, food, with the hope that we can cover up the suffering inside. And that does not help very much, because that suffering is there and continue to grow. And it always tries to manifest, especially during the night. So the practice recommended by the Buddha is not to run away from suffering. Instead, you have to go home to yourself and get in touch with it and try to hold it dearly and listen deeply so that you can understand it. Understanding suffering will show you the way of transformation and healing. The first noble truth is ill being, suffering. And if you look deeply into that first noble truth, you see the other three truths, including the truth of the path leading to the cessation and transformation of suffering. If we try to run away from the first noble truth, it's no way that we can see the fourth one, the one that can lead to transformation and healing. When the monastics chant for the first time the name Avalokitesvara, they turn inside of them and touch the suffering inside. When they chant it for the second time, they recognize the suffering of those who are around them. And when they chant for the third time, they become aware of the suffering in the world. And by chanting with mindfulness like that, they produce together the energy of mindfulness, concentration, and compassion. The energy of mindfulness touching suffering can help the energy of compassion to arise. And compassion is a kind of energy that can be very healing and transforming. And if we know how to allow the collective energy of mindfulness and peace to penetrate into our body, and then we will suffer less. We can release the tension and the pain in our body, and we can also release the tension and suffering in our heart. There is tension and pain in our body. If we know how to follow our in-breath and out-breath, and allow ourselves to be fully present in the here and the now, and relax, the collective energy of mindfulness and peace generated by the chanting will be able to penetrate into our body and help release the tension and reduce the pain, and you'll feel better after a few minutes of listening. And if we have some pain or sorrow or fear or despair in our heart, we may like to open our heart so that the collective energy of the Sangha could penetrate and help hold the block of pain and sorrow in us. Here is my pain, here is my despair. Please, the Sangha, help recognize and hold it for me. And if we know how to open ourselves and allow the collective energy of mindfulness and peace and compassion to embrace our pain and sorrow, we will suffer less after a few minutes of listening. This is a practice, not a prayer. And if we have someone in the family who is sick, who suffers now, who could not come this afternoon, we can very well send this collective energy to him or to her just by calling his or her name silently. Think of that person, and this wholesome energy of peace and compassion will be channeled to that person right away, and at home he or she will feel better. So let us join in the practice, allow ourselves to be relaxed, and allow the collective energy of the Sangha to penetrate into our body and our mind, our heart.